Andre Patterson, who I was talking about, who's a defensive line coach, firing his guys up. On the other side, there's an old great tackle of mine, Art Shell. Art Shell is in the Hall of Fame, and he's the offensive line coach. So you see the defensive line goes on one side telling their guys what they do. The offensive line goes on the other side telling them what they have.
That's Robert Smith, and there's nothing there for Robert. As the Falcons, there's a flag on the play. This might be a face mask. Jesse Tuggle was the first Falcon there.
Jesse Tuggle, again, has been very active up and down the line of scrimmage. And again, that play starts by his two defensive tackles tying up two blockers and freeing him to flow.
Face mask violation against Atlanta. Here's Robert Smith.
Foul. Threatening the face mask. 58, defense, 15 yards.
Got him. Yep.
That's Jesse Tuggle. He got in the flow. He was free. He did exactly what he had to do until he grabbed the face mask at the end. We've talked about this all season. Remember, there's two types of face mask penalties, the 5-yard and the 15-yard variety. It seems this year, every time there's a face mask penalty, it's a 15-yard variety.
Well, it's supposed to be, if it's incidental, only 5. But as you say, we haven't seen many 5s.
I think old Jesse jerked that one pretty good.
Indeed, did.
The Falcons look like they're self-destructing here in this second quarter.
They got to calm down right now. Here's Cunningham. He gets it out to Charles Evans. He's knocked out of bounds, and there's another flag. Booker hit Evans. And they think he hit him a little late, I believe.
You know, you want to be fired up. You want to be ready to play. You know it's a championship game. The winner goes to the Super Bowl. But still, within that intensity, you have to be smart.
You don't want to lose your poise.
80 of the defense. 15 yards.
Another 15. That one was close. That's marginal.
You see, it's right there, right after he's out of bounds,
yeah.
then you can't hit him. You have to blow the whistle. Play the whistle.
30 yards to face mask, and now that unnecessary roughness. Burrow has taken Lester Archambault's place. The Atlanta defense. Cunningham. Incomplete. Had it and lost it. It was Randy Moss streaking across the end zone.
Yeah, and that's where Randall Cunningham has been so great this year. Do you see him? I mean, immediately he puts his hands up and he says, that's okay. Because here, Randy Moss, you see the great speed that he has. And we know about the size and everything, and he has to catch that one. I mean, it would have been a great catch.
Yep.
But I tell you, Randall Cunningham makes very close to a perfect throw there.
That's all he's done all day.
And he thought it was a touchdown at first. Then he puts his hand up and he says, that's okay. You know, he calmed everyone, just calm down. We're okay.
Second and 10. Hand off to Smith. Now he's got some room around the corner, and he can turn the corner. Gets about 3. Booker herded him out of bounds.
You know, one of the things, because the Atlanta Falcons don't cover the center, Jeff Christie is pulling on a lot of these plays. And what that does, I mean, if I were playing the Minnesota Vikings, I'd put a man on Jeff Christie the whole game. Because if you don't put a guy on him, then that lets him pull out, and you get an extra blocker by not covering him. You get an extra blocker at the point of attack.
Jeff Christie headed for the Pro Bowl.
He's a good player. I love the way he plays. He's calling everything. He's calling pass protections.
Nobody over his nose, as you said. Cunningham. Incomplete. And no flag. Chris Carter is begging for one, but he doesn't get it. Ray Buchanan on the coverage. And here comes Anderson again.
And the Falcons have to think that they dodged a little bullet in there, and the fact that Randy Moss was open in the end zone, and that throw was there, and he kind of dropped it, so they come back and then they get a chance to do this one. Buchanan is right there. He has both hands around him.
That was close.
Now, at some point they have to let him play. I mean, that was probably pass interference, but at some point you have to let those guys play.
Anderson from 35 yards out. It's 20-7. Berger approaches. Tim Dwight will take it about 2 yards deep into the end zone. He gets back to about the 25, and that's his best return. Chris Walsh.
Yeah, watch this here. Here's Randy Moss here. This is a key for a defender. You see, he has his mouthpiece in his hand. Now, if he's going to be just a guy who's just running around out there, he doesn't even put his mouthpiece in his mouth. Now, if he thinks that he's going to run a post or something, there's going to be some contact, I'll guarantee you, Randy Moss has that mouthpiece in the mouth.
He's going to have both hands loose.
Well, you know, the more tired you get, the tougher it is to breathe through your nose. So that mouthpiece makes it tough, so it's easier to breathe through your nose without the mouthpiece in.
Chandler gives to Jamal Anderson. He gets outside the 30. That might be his longest run of the day. Robert Griffith made the stop again.
You know, other than that first drive, the Vikings have played very well against Jamal Anderson.
Even in the first drive, they played very well against him. He scored the touchdown on a pass.
But I think where he was effective on that first drive is they were faking to him. They were running those play-action passes that were effective.
Ed McDaniel, who was shaken up earlier, comes out. There's one of the greats who played here in Minnesota for a long, long time, Carl Eller.
This is great. And Carl Eller's up for the Hall of Fame this year. They have 15 finalists in the balloting. Carl Eller is one of those guys.
He's gonna push me, man.
He was a great man.
Oh boy.
You're right. When he played here, they didn't have a roof over their field.
They were outdoors and cold. Here's Chandler. Takes out of the pocket, fires, first down Atlanta.
Now, Chandler's starting to feel the rush now. He's even starting to look at it.
Chandler steps up, now signals with his hand. That means they can't hear. Here comes the sack on Chandler by Jason Fisk.
Watch Chris Chandler on that, and he's done that the last couple times. He's starting to look at the pass rush. One thing a quarterback cannot do is he can't watch the pass rush. And you watch him here in the shotgun, he's going to see it come here. You see him put his head down there, and he looks at the pass rush. Now, there wasn't much that he could do about it because Jason Fisk was coming free up the middle.
Here's Chandler, drops it out to Anderson. And Jamal Anderson steps out of a couple of tackles, gets out of bounds, stops the clock at the 38.
There's Jack Burns on the left. Now, Jack Burns calls the plays. He calls him down to backup quarterback Steve DeBerg. And DeBerg is the guy who calls the plays into Chris Chandler. Dan Reeves is not part of this. Dan Reeves just listens to it.
He can hear, but he doesn't interrupt or call plays. He suggests maybe.
And he does, like, you know, fourth down to go for it, take penalties, those kinds of things. But Jack Burns is calling these plays and has called them all year.
3rd and 12. The Vikings showing blitz, and here they come. And Chandler steps up and fires deep. He got a man open and out of bounds. It was Tony Martin. But the ball sailed out of bounds and over his head.
And we talked about Robert Griffith and all the things that he's done. This guy's been all over the field, and it was him again that was pressuring on that play. And the one thing, I think they have Chris Chandler out of sync now. They have that passing game out of sync, and they're just going after him and not letting him have any timing. Here's Robert Griffith. You see number 24. He just comes off the right and then just jumps on Chandler and throws it.
Krasinski to Palmer. Palmer signals fair catch, makes it at the 16.
And I think, you know, if they're going to get back in this game, they not only have to do it offensively and defensively, but they have to get some turnovers.
They got to do it right here. They can't let the Vikings get more points on the board. Cunningham throws wild high. Matthew Hatchett was the intended target.
Yeah, we're talking about Randall Cunningham and what a great year he's had, and he does everything so calmly. Even when he goes down easily.
Yep.
You know, there's not the abrupt, the violent hit. He looks like he just kind of stretches and goes down. Now, I know that's easy for me to say.
Howie?
But an old lineman should ever be seen having that done.
You ever think you see that?
No, that's why linemen always wear big face masks to cover up how ugly they were.
In intended for Chris Carter.
Chris Carter hasn't been a big part of this first half. It's been about running, and it's been about Randy Moss. We know that Chris Carter is a heck of a competitor, and you can see what the noise was about. He was hit there in the back before the ball got there.
Randy Fuller involved in a little meeting with Chris Carter.
I think there's a lot of talking going on down there. You know, that stuff between defensive backs and wide receivers that I never felt was a necessary part of the game.
3rd and 10. Cunningham drops. Moss goes deep. Cunningham lost the ball somehow. Pump fake, and he lost it to Atlanta. It says they have it.
Well, if they did, we just said what Atlanta needs is a turnover, and this would be a big one if they get this.
They got it. What happened to Cunningham? Did you see?
Yeah, I see. It looks like he goes to throw the ball and then pulls it back. But
somebody hit his arm.
The ball was knocked out of his hand before it went through.
Chuck Smith hit his arm.
Chuck Smith came from that backside. Randall Cunningham takes that big long windup, and as he takes that windup and brings that ball back, Chuck Smith just knocked it right out of his hand. That's Chuck Smith. He's working on Todd Stussy there. What a play.
Oh, boy.
Because Stussy really had him blocked pretty well. And Chuck Smith doing that. Watch him. He gets around him. Now when he goes around here, Cunningham is going to step up, and Chuck Smith shouldn't get there. But when he goes to whip that arm, he brings it back, and he brings it right back to Chuck Smith. That is the play the Atlanta Falcons needed right now.
That's the turnover that they became famous for this year. 1st and 10 Atlanta at the Minnesota 14.
Notice how the crowd went quiet on that play?
Atlanta has all 3 of their timeouts. Jamal Anderson is the deep back. Mathis in motion. Chandler drops. Touchdown, just like that. Terrence Mathis.
That's exactly what they needed. I mean, they needed the turnover, and they're very good inside the 20, and then, of course, they needed the score to go. So we talk about turnover, and we talk about points off turnover, and we just saw it right here. Here you see Terrence Mathis is right here. He's in the slot, and he's going to get a bump, and he dodged the bump. See, if you miss your bump, usually in a zone defense or against a zone defense, you're going to be wide open for a couple of split seconds.
And the crowd was, here's Whitfield and Randall.
Well, you know that's going to be a matchup all day.
Morton Anderson hits the extra point. 17, half the points today have been scored off turnover. It's 20-14 Minnesota. 56 seconds left in the first half.
You know, when you evaluate games and you analyze them and talk about them before they're played, the 2 things that are often omitted are special teams and turnovers.
Yeah. Anderson's kick sailed deep to Palmer, and he will down it. Both teams have all 3 of their timeouts left.
Yeah, Atlanta struck on 1 down.
Cunningham hands to Smith. Gets about 6 or 7.
Looks like the Vikings are going to go with no huddle here, and I think they want to do is just calm things down here and not do anything stupid and not force anything.
2nd and 3, and Cunningham drops the throw. Here comes the rush. It's a screen pass chased by the Falcons. Smith runs it out of bounds. Stops the clock with 30 seconds left.
The Vikings aren't really trying to move the ball up the field. I think they, if they could get, break something on the screen and get towards midfield, they may take a couple shots. But I know that Dan Reeves is thinking, boy, it'd be nice to get the ball back here, and Denny Green is thinking, we're not going to give you the ball here again. We just did that the last time we had the ball.
Brian Billick shaking his head, saying, we got to get a first down. We don't have to give it back to him.
Shaking his head from that fumble he had. Rich Brooks is saying, Rich Brooks is the defensive coordinator. His team has always been very good at getting turnovers.
Chris Carter from Cunningham gets the first down. Now they take a timeout.
And so now what I think they'll try and do is now they have a little better field position, and you don't go for the whole enchilada in one play. I think they'll probably go from here, try and get it to midfield, then from midfield, try and get it to the 30 where you get in field goal range.